see a graveyard. Across the way, you see a graveyard. And you might say, how did this ever happen? Here's the church. These are people from the church mainly that were buried here, but it's quite a story. When the church moved here from down near the state police barracks, they brought the remains of people who were buried there, along with the stones, and the stones were placed along the east side of this church, and otherwise out through there. Meanwhile, the congregation had started a cemetery back here. But it very quickly became evident that we're going to run out of space. So what do we do? So in 1852, the St. Paul's Wurtemberg Cemetery really started to develop. We had donations, well, not actually donations, but purchased through a donation of an acre across the way here in that direction. So they laid it out and put plot numbers on it. That wasn't enough, so they got another acre next to it, and they laid that out and put plot numbers in it. So it was nice and orderly. But then in 1916, I think it was, for some reason, they purchased a piece of property that goes across the eastern side, across the northern side next to your driveway, and down the western side, around the 2 other acres. Why? I have no idea. But the piece is only 10 feet, 4 inches wide, all the way around 3 sides of the cemetery. Why? I don't know. But the eastern side, which was provided by the Frost family, was kind of perhaps for the burial of the Frost family, and that's where most of them are. And then in 1970s, they decided we needed a little more space because this section, which we call Section A, is pretty well filled up. So we obtained about 1/4 of an acre on the east side of Section A, not Section B. But it became evident very quickly that this isn't going to be adequate because there's bedrock down there about 2 feet. And that makes full burials a little bit difficult. Yeah. So we had a couple here who sat over in this section when we first came here, Walter and Lottie Acker, who owned a house just up the road. If you see the spruces along the way here, just beyond there on the left side was Walt and Lottie Acker's place, and they own this area out here. And they gave the 2 acres over here to the Wurtemberg Cemetery for $1.
Wow.
I mean, you have to have something in the deed, it says in the, and so forth. For $1, they donated Section C.
Wow.
And that's how we came up with this complicated layout of the cemetery, which is all part of, except for this side, which has remained part of the church property. This and all of it, the other side, is part of the St. Paul's Wurtemberg Cemetery Association. Mm-hmm. It's a corporation and a non-for-profit corporation. And it has a board of trustees. The trustees, a couple of them are here. Julie Long is the secretary. Nancy Paul is a member. Jill Grimm is the treasurer, Martha Blavick is vice president, Peter Grimm is a member, and Ken Tompkins is a member. And, oh, the president is me, I guess. Been there for a while. So, where am I on my list here? So, if you purchase a plot in the cemetery, you have to have a deed, a legal deed. The person owns that piece of ground, their family own it, they say for perpetuity. Okay? So when someone is buried, they're supposed to provide evidence of ownership. We go back to 1850, when we first, in the 1850s, when we first started, I don't mean me, I'm not quite there. They still had deeds, but even modern ones, maybe 30 or 40 years old that were purchased, the family doesn't know where the deed is. And as the family is extended, who has the right to use the plot? So it becomes quite a problem to know who, when there's going to be a burial. So who is the owner? Who has the right to use the property? Anyway, anybody who is a member of the family person or couple or whatever who purchased the piece of property, the plot or plots, that family has the right to use those plots forever. And as the family grows, who gets the right to use it? So it becomes quite a problem. But it's an insolvable problem, so the state kind of looks the other way and says, okay, if you show you're part of that family, we don't need the deeds. The deeds are gone forever. Most of them whoever they were, where did the deeds go? And unfortunately, church records are very, very sparse as far as the ownership, the deeds to the properties. But anyway, anybody who is a member of the family that bought that plot is a voting member of the St. Paul's Wurtemberg Cemetery Association. And every year we have an annual meeting. And someone from that family, anyone from that family, but only one person from that family can be the voting member for that plot. And so any actions that are done at the annual meeting, the assembly has the right to vote on the actions, and someone from any plot can be a part of that vote. So that brings us up to what's happening now. Every year we have an annual meeting, and this year the annual meeting is going to be on May 2nd. That's a Tuesday. The general meeting of the association will be at 7 o'clock here on Tuesday, May 2nd. And I hope if you're a member of the ownership of a property here, or if you're just interested in the cemetery and what it does, glad to have you come to the meeting. Everybody is welcome. That's the time of the meeting. And what kinds of things do we need? We go through all of the business of the year and proposals for what we're going to do during this next year. But the cemetery trustees are not paid. Anyone who works on projects are not paid. It's a volunteer organization. Volunteer organization needs volunteers. So what kinds of things are there that the cemetery does? It sounds like it's not very active. But how much can you have? How much can you possibly need to do? Well, let's see. We take care of interment records, contact information to property owners. We do property boundary markers and fences, take care of those. Burial maps and files, trees and grounds care, monuments maintenance, plot location and marking of monuments and burial sites when there's going to be a burial attendance. Somebody has to be or should be at a burial, and there are fees to get fees and certification for the burial. Brochures and advertising, that's been Nancy. Plot sales, and then wonderful things like the IRS and Division of Cemetery annual reports. All that just for this little volunteer association of a cemetery. So we hope that we're going to get a lot of people coming out to the meeting, because we need to find some volunteers so that we can move forward with everything we really need to do. Any questions anybody has?
What kind of things do you still
Is
need
that
to do?
enough?
What kind of things do you have, what kind of things do you want to do?
Well, you just went through the list of
In the
volunteers.
in this next year? Is
That
there a
would-
specific
that-
thing?
No, that's not down there yet.
Okay,
The trustees will meet before the annual meeting and will
talk that out.
do the details
Yeah.
for the General Assembly, which will be at 7 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So come on out and,
Wendy has something.
okay, yes,
Wendy, over here.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
yeah.
So if you figure out that you actually do have a family plot, you know, in it, after looking at the records, would it be, is it okay to plant a small tree in that family plot?
No, no trees in plots.
You know, in
They
trees?
become a real problem.
Because it's really helps, it's just much more beautiful when
You
you.
can plant a tree out, we'll
Yeah.
find a place for
Yeah.
it.
We maintain the trees along the eastern and southern.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll find a place if you want to put a tree,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, we have some spots where trees need to be replaced.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's.
What happens if you plant a tree like next to your parents' plot or something, then it's a problem mowing around it, you know?
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's just that these are, they're getting more and more across the country, and there's a lot of space. We just need a lot more trees, and that's all my message is.
No, we have plenty of room for trees,
We
believe
need
me.
a lot of trees.
Yeah,
No, I agree, we want to plant trees.
but the mowing and trimming makes it impossible to handle
Yeah.
if the
Or
trees.
make it more natural, like wildflowers instead of grass, things like that, because it's about the people here that are living,
Yeah.
not being negative.
Plantings, temporary plantings along the, next to the stones are okay,
Okay,
as
cool.
long as they are kept. If they're not well kept, then they'll be mowed over probably.
mm-hmm.
So, okay?
Hopefully the future will be changing in reference to that.
We come to the meeting, that'll be a good chance to. All right, so, thank you very much, Pete. Any other questions, you can talk to them